And welcome back. We're hearing the president will address the nation theoretically in the next 5-10 minutes. And of course, we'll take that for you. I'm rejoined by Mayo Bartlett, an attorney and former chief of the Bias Crimes Unit in New York. And solutions, qualified immunity. If that was taken away, and we understand the Supreme Court looking at that right now, and there may be some bipartisan support, then if there was the potential for culpability, easier for law enforcement, you believe it would make a material difference?
Absolutely. I think that that would make a material difference. The other thing is that right now, having leaders like the mayor of Minneapolis would make a big difference as well. Somebody who is there for the people, representing the people. No one wakes up in the morning having to discipline or terminate anybody who works for them. But if the people know that you're really there for them and that you have their back, then that will go a very long way. And the proof of that is when you have police shootings that seem to be justified, you don't have this response. When you have police making arrests of people that we believe are guilty, you don't have that response.
And the other thing is disciplinary records being made public. And again, cops should have their day. Somebody should review it. Right now, if somebody just makes a complaint, it's there. You don't know, it's never really adjudicated. Let them have their day, and if it doesn't deserve to be in their jacket, it shouldn't be, but if it's merited, it should be there. And you also said even potentially licensing. You mentioned words. We're going to hear from the president soon. I really am afraid with such an edge, and you've seen the protests, they've turned ugly at times at night. I saw the brother of Mr. Lloyd saying, you know, you're disparaging, Mr. Floyd, you're disparaging my brother's name. What would you say to people who take advantage as the night grows late in many of these cities and go from protests to try and speak about overdue justice and turning it into looting and firing and throwing, bottles at cops and even, worse? What do you say to those people? Because to me, they ruin an opportunity that you said at the beginning of the program.
Well, I think that those people will be taken and held accountable, and that no one's going to complain about them being held accountable. We have to realize, though, just as we do with police officers, that the handful of people who are out there doing this do not represent everyone else any more than the officer who's responsible for the death represents everybody on the police force. Now, of course, it's a tremendous harm. You're losing parts of your city, people are losing their lives, and none of that should happen. But again, we can't focus only on those individuals. The other thing is, I always have questions when you look and see police departments entirely retreat to allow things like this to happen in the first place.
They're in a tough spot, and I understand that, because if they do use force, it can exasperate it. I think the governor of Minnesota said it himself, Mayo, that they should have done things differently in the first couple of nights than they have. Are you right now, how concerned are you? Because you said it right. I mean, we're dealing with a pandemic. We're dealing with an economic recession that could resemble a depression here, very, very possibly in the coming months. And now you're peeling back a scab of something that's been there really since the birth of this, the original sin of racism, of slavery, and it's coming right up to the fore. I'm concerned, not just what he's going to say from the Rose Garden, but it doesn't seem like it could take a lot to turn this from really, really bad to something even worse.
I think that when you look at the protests, you see people of all walks of life, and the thing that's striking me tremendously is the diversity of the people protesting. So when you look at a protest in Salt Lake City, and black people there, you can barely see any black people there because there aren't very many black people in Salt Lake City. And they are there, and they are also asking for good policing, and they are also supportive and recognizing that what happened should not have occurred. To me, that gives me a tremendous amount of encouragement. And the other thing that I can't escape is that with all of these things, with the 100,000 plus people dead, with many more unfortunately likely to come, with cities basically burning and certainly protests all around the country in almost every major city. If you look at the stock market, and again, with 40 million people who are gone, it seems to soar despite all of that. Anybody who's not being carried with that stock market needs to look at the people who they hate and realize you have a lot more in common with those people than you think. And this is not a knock against people who do well. But what I'm saying is that if we did what we should be doing right now, it's an opportunity for us to start building things again in the United States. It's an opportunity for us to start being able to make at least masks, maybe look at roads that need to be repaired. And all of us can rise together if we do it the right way.
Well, I know that it was a big day for a case you've been working on for a long time for the Chamberlains and the Chamberlain family. We'll see how this shakes out, but you know, you got to go back to '68, as I said at the beginning with Andrew, to see the moment in time that we're in right now, with a lot of other variables like a pandemic, for crying out loud. We're really at an inflection point in this country, and
I think the young people are going to be the ones who do
you're
not
right,
have
yeah.
a lot of the hangups that we've had. They seem to be coming together. They don't seem to see the differences in terms of color as much as we used to, and I think that they communicate a lot better than we do. And it'll be interesting to watch them as they start to lead.
And it'll be interesting to see what our president has to say. He's going to speak shortly, we understand, and of course we'll have that for you. Mayo, as always, my friend, thank you for the time.
Thank you, Rich.
All right, everyone, we're going to take a break. When we come back, you see the live scene there at the White House. We'll take you to hear from the Commander-in-Chief.